I wonder if I could make a comment. I think that what I talked about previously this morning in terms of public-private partnerships, just talk about the hotel sector, for example. And this does not involve gaming. We'll leave that out because that's a charged kind of word everywhere we go. But think about a hotel product, for example. In today's environment, the cost of building a structure like the Waldorf Astoria, which is being built across the street from the Citadel in Jerusalem, I think that's been going on for 4 or 5 years now, at least it's not open yet. The cost of that structure to put it up and to be profitable for the owner of that building does not match up to the rate structure that can be gotten from the type of business that's coming to the community on a tourist basis. And that's a factor when you're talking about why the governments have to contribute in terms of tax situations, depreciation allowances, and all those kinds of things that make the initial investment profitable for the private enterprise, for the private sector. More understanding about how profitability works and even other things that go on will allow that kind of hotel development, because you have to match up the tourist capability to pay with the product you're building. And in many cities in the world, particularly the cities that Novotel or other companies or your other companies would go to, the ability to get 5-star done or 4-star done or 3-star done depends upon the type of customer or guest that's going to be in that property. And in order to develop it and make money on it, which is the nature of business, oftentimes they need some help from the government to incentivize that new hotel productivity. And that's a very misunderstood situation, because previously almost all hotels in my history have been purely private, not public-private. And that's got to change in order to get the kind of development that you need. It's particularly expensive to build in Jerusalem or cities like Jerusalem around the world, because the costs have gone up dramatically. But the rate structures have not. And so, and when you're heavily tourist-oriented, there's always a price sensitivity that you can deal with. Heavily business-oriented, there's less price sensitivity, so you can afford to build on more of a profitable basis.
Thank you very much. Mr. Fattal, due to the fact that here on this stage you are maybe the expert to be able to compare the experience of constructing a hotel in Jerusalem or constructing a hotel elsewhere in Europe, what would you say the main difference in the eyes of the entrepreneur?
10 years. 10 years. 10 years. It's if you want to do a good hotel in Israel or in Europe, the difference is 10 years. It's much easier to work in some countries. In other countries, it's difficult, as in Israel. But as Kevin showed us, the development of tourism in Israel is of hotel rooms in Israel is nearly zero. And this is due to profitability, first of all, lack of profitability, because building a hotel from scratch is very, very expensive and not always paid off. And this is one. And second, the regulation. And the regulation is very difficult here. We work in Europe, mainly in Germany, which is a country that it's very easy to make business. Everybody supports you. If you bring some money to build a hotel in any city in Germany, they think and they believe, like it should be, that you're coming to bring more jobs, to bring more economy, to contribute, etc., etc. In Israel, sometimes it's different, and it takes you a lot of time. The other aspect is, of course, Israel is a very sensitive place for tourism. We know. The last few years were very good, and with God's help, we all believe that it will continue. But you have to be very optimistic here, because as we saw in the curves, every few years there is a drop. Even last year, with a small operation of 5 days in Gaza, dropped the market tremendously, mainly in Jerusalem, Tiberias, Tel Aviv, etc. And still the markets are recovering. So in Israel, I mean, economy drops, peaks, ups and downs, there's always and everywhere. But in Israel, it's more risky.
Here on this stage, we have three representatives of well-known brands. The Accor, the Las Vegas Sands with the various products, the Leonardo. But the question is mainly to you, Alison, because you see, there is a major question. Do we need grading of hotels in this world today? Maybe the strength of those brands that are sharing with us the stage here stand alone and doesn't need any assistance from any schematic type of grading system. But you created a very interesting grading system. Can you share it with us?
Yes, thank you. I have a few slides to show you. I can see it on there, but I can't. Okay, you can hear me now. So I was asked if reviews have a role to play. I wouldn't be here if I didn't think that they did have a role to play. I'm obviously going to affirm TripAdvisor's role particularly. Just to give you some examples. These are the numbers. The numbers, I think, speak for themselves. I joined TripAdvisor about 4 years ago, and we had 14 million unique users a month. Now we have 200 million unique users a month. So you'll see, I think I'm the digital person on the panel. So I'm here to explain how fast the digital marketing forum is growing, and to explain to hoteliers you really need to get on this bandwagon. So we are getting one contribution a minute, one contribution a second from people all around the world now, and a contribution will either be a review or an opinion or a photograph. Oops. So you'll see we were born in the States, but we're actually bigger now in Europe. We're growing around the world, and we are the biggest site in the Middle East. So I would advise people who didn't know about TripAdvisor just to have a quick look. Are reviews important? Well, our reviewers tell us they are. This is a survey that we did a few months ago, and people are beginning to say that they will now not make a booking without a review, because people's habits have changed. They used to rely on travel agents, and they don't quite so much anymore, and they like to hear from their friends. Our site is all about the wisdom of crowds, the wisdom of friends, and people will go on site to see what other people have said, and particularly what their friends will say. You'd expect me to say that, wouldn't you? But we have been collaborating recently with Professor Anderson from Cornell University, and he has found that if you can generate a good online reputation, it can have a really powerful effect on your bookings. So the most important point on this slide, which you can read for yourself, is if you can improve your online reputation, you will be able to charge more than 11% more for your average daily rate, which is extraordinary when you think about how hard it is to push up your yield on your property. So I would heartily recommend that you do this, because it is a free service. Slides gone. Just to give you some examples that relate to Israel particularly, you will see that 54% is the growth rate in the traffic that TripAdvisor is getting of people who are interested in traveling to Israel on holiday, which you'd think not too shabby. 54% is pretty nice when you expect that we were hearing earlier that your plans are to grow to 10 million tourists per annum. That's a pretty good start. But not so great when you realize that the competition, other countries around the world are growing at an even faster rate. So as an example, Brazil is growing at 61%, India is growing at 78%, Russia is growing at 75%, and Japan is our fastest growing market in terms of searches at the moment, which is 119%. But a very positive thing is that 80% of the hotels that we have on Israeli hotels have a very good rating. 80% of them have a rating of 3.5 or more out of 5. So you will probably be aware of this. These are the markets that are delivering most of the traffic to Israel. So that will come as any surprise. But what might be disappointing for you to know is that actually you are losing share from very significant markets. As an example, Russians, if you compare year on year, 2012 to 2011, we've seen a 17% drop in traffic from Russia, a 21% drop from Italy, 21% from Germany, and a 19% drop from Italy. And France and the UK have both dropped about 4%. So you'll see the travel patterns are changing. That might be to do with the economics of Europe, particularly in the UK and France, I would guess. But I think it's probably true to say that Russians are traveling elsewhere. So markets which are growing inbound into Israel, you'll see them here. They're growing at significant rates, but of course, Sweden and Argentina, these are smaller countries. So I think if you're looking at the marketing challenge for Israel in general, there is some shoring up to do in the existing markets. The US was only growing by 0.2%. So given that the Israeli inbound traffic is so important to this country, I would ask your tourist board whether they might consider doing some advertising in the US. In terms of what the online reputation does, we take the reviews that individuals give and we rank them according to the quality, quantity and recency of reviews, and that will drive the popularity index that people get. And then if your hotel performs extremely well, the top 1% of our hoteliers are given a Traveller's Choice Award once a year, and the top 10% are given certificates of excellence, which hoteliers can use to promote their own success. I was mentioning that people are very keen to know what's going on, what their friends' opinion is. We were the first travel site to do a major integration with Facebook, and now 35% of our reviews are coming in with a friend's reference, so you can see what your friends are saying preferentially over any other individual. This is a free service we've just offered. If anybody wants to ask for reviews, we offer a free email service. So as a hotelier, you can register on TripAdvisor and then send an email which is private between you and your guests, so that you can build your reputation online for free. You can write a management response, so you have the right to reply and the last say in responding to people. And you can celebrate the success of the badges you generate. I wanted to put a slide up which showed what we call at TripAdvisor the 3-screen issue. This is something that we're working on currently and is a very new phenomenon for us and for the world in general. We're getting extraordinary growth on mobile phones. Many hoteliers don't really realize that they probably need an app for bookings. Most people are, if they've got a website, are optimizing it for desktops. But people tend to be using mobiles for booking now. They use their tablets for dreaming, mostly when they're at home late-ish at night, thinking of where they might go next. So that's to be borne in mind, I think. And then most people will be booking their hotel on a Monday morning when they should be working. They're actually coming into the office and making their booking. So I think you might bear that in mind, or your marketing people might. These are some examples of the things that people say, of the role that TripAdvisor plays for their business. So I hope after that you now understand a little bit about how digital marketing can help your business.
Thank you very much.